Hi, everybody. We've got a really important show today. You know, mistakes can happen to anyone. But if your doctor makes a mistake, the consequences can be deadly. Today, I'm exposing the 3 deadly conditions doctors miss in women and the 5 ways to protect yourself. The secrets I'm revealing will change the way you get treated at your doctor's office forever. The first deadly condition doctors miss most in women happened to Janet. Take a look at her story.
It was a typical Saturday morning in summer. We were getting ready for a family outing when I suddenly lost control of my legs. They were like noodles. Seconds later, I dropped to my knees. The room started spinning really, really fast, and my vision went. It was like the world was lit by a strobe light. Then the most intense nausea I have ever experienced. I managed to crawl to the bathroom and started vomiting uncontrollably. Then I had hiccups that wouldn't stop. My son had just gotten over a stomach flu, so I thought I must have picked it up from him. I sent my family on the outing without me. By the time they returned home, I was a wreck. I was still vomiting, I couldn't see straight, and I was totally unable to move. We raced to the ER. My blood showed a slight elevation in antibodies, which the doctor said could indicate I have the flu. A CAT scan showed nothing abnormal. I was diagnosed with an inner ear infection. They gave me medication to ease the nausea and dizziness and sent me home. I was told it would all clear up in 3 to 6 weeks. I couldn't believe I was being sent home. I couldn't take care of myself.
Janet, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, just to be clear for everybody, you had symptoms. They included headaches, dizziness, and a lack of balance.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And the diagnosis that your doctor gave you was that you had an inner ear infection.
Labyrinthitis.
Labyrinthitis. Right. And I'm only pointing this out because these are symptoms that probably aren't rare for many of you watching, but they're symptoms that nevertheless were not on target for this diagnosis. What was the real diagnosis?
I had a stroke.
And if it's okay with you, Jen, I'm going to walk everyone through what a stroke is.
Yes.
Can you come join me?
Sure.
So, a stroke happens. Stroke happens when you have the heart pushing little blood vessels through blood with them up into the brain. That little speck that went up there is a little clot. And that clot closes off one of the small vessels on the brain. The blood can't get there, and these neurons, they shrivel up. And as they shrivel up, it's like someone punched the skull and gives you a bruise on your brain. Now, that is what we call a stroke. It's like a brain attack. And when folks have that, the symptoms can be quite confusing. You listed the 3 classic ones, though. So let's go over, I'm going to show you what a real brain looks like. Have you ever seen a real brain?
I haven't.
So, I can see you're baited with anticipation.
I want to see this.
Take that off if you don't mind.
Okay.
You all see that there? And I want you to, if you don't mind, grab it out. And this part of the brain down here is the part that controls your balance. So if you have a stroke down here, you often will lose your balance. The front part of the brain up here is in charge of executive function. So if you have a stroke here, you can't make decisions. Like, for example, may not be able to find your way to your own home or to a hospital or even use the phone. If you have a stroke in this central part of the brain, you'll have very obvious symptoms because this is where the motor cortex is, so you won't be able to move a part of your body. Those are the classic signs that people get when they're having strokes. And of course, a stroke back here where your eyesight's located will make you blind. So how did you react when you found out your true diagnosis?
I was relieved to know what was wrong with me because I knew it was much more serious than a virus in my ear. And then I was scared because I didn't know if I was going to get those abilities back.
Yeah. Come join me. So sit down a little bit. I'd like to ask Dr. Lisa Sanders, who's joining me today. She's the New York Times Magazine columnist. There's a great column called Diagnosis that I actually read and learn from. And she's joining us because it's actually fascinating to me how often we misdiagnose women with life-threatening problems. And give us a little bit of an insight what you find in your practice and your experience.
Well, I think that women, from the point of view of the patient, women, I think, are not as forceful with their symptoms as men can be, you know. But also, on the part of doctors, I think that we're just less likely to believe women. There was this old-fashioned term called hysteria. And what that came from is referred to the uterus. And doctors used to think that the uterus would float around the body, and wherever it landed, we would have pains or symptoms from there. And it was just part of being a woman. And I think that remnants of that still persist subtly.
I never knew that's where hysteria came from. I'm fascinated by that. Well, how are you feeling now?
I'm feeling great, and I'm wearing high heels. That's a big deal for me.
That is a big deal,
Yeah.
especially if you've lost your balance and then you can get it back.
Exactly.
Well, I'm very happy for you.
Great.